So this episode was really interesting because it laid out a lot of the ground rules and a lot of the intricacies of this actual game, and we saw the Phantom Troupe. Hunter x Hunter Episode 62, Reality and Raw. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters and hunters and Greed Island players of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and virtual reality-ridden RPG heavy tale of Hunter x Hunter 2011. Now, our last episode saw us with really Gon and Killua just kind of cementing their friendship a bit more and really seeing how much these two kind of have like just sort of that brotherly bond, that brotherly love for one another, and really kind of getting a little bit of a lay of the land, so to speak, for some of the in-game things that can happen, that cannot happen, that sort of thing. So, anyways, the episode left off with this, it looks like a little younger girl or whatever, following them around and kind of hot on their trail. Biscuit, I think her name is. And that's how the episode ends off, is with her kind of going, yeah, I'm going to go and bother them. I'm going to, torment them, whatever, tease them, whatever her deal is. This episode goes in, and it's actually cool. A ton of stuff happens in it, and a lot of it really just has to do with kind of laying down the ground rules for the game and the players within it. It starts out with Gon and Killua participating in that tournament, and it's actually a rock, paper, scissors tournament, which Killua winds up winning, and they wind up winning a slotted, one of the permanent slotted items, number 83, the Sword of Truth. The Sword of Truth is cool because it can be used to obviously go and see past. If it winds up seeing something that is truth, it breaks, but if you keep it in its scabbard, it reappears after one day. But it can help to decipher, obviously, things that are false. And I don't know if it's I forget exactly if it's like spells or if it's the players or what it is. But the bottom line is they get the thing, and then like 2 minutes later, some guy comes and tries to steal it from them. Luckily, they figure out that this guy is kind of a nervous newbie as it is too, and Gon goes and snatches the card, the thief card that he's going to use before he actually uses it. And what they find out that was important about that encounter is that you have to actually say the spell with the card in your hand before it actually takes effect. So then after that, they get surrounded by a gang of dinglings, I guess, experienced players, whatever the case is, thieves, basically. Ones who say, yeah, it's stupid to go and fight in tournaments to get cards, or to participate in tournaments to get cards, because then they can just get stolen from you, especially because Gon and Killua have no defensive spells. So they wind up going and showing afterwards, Gon and Killua sitting around, and Gon is pissed off that they just lost this card. And it's like, hey, whatever, man, it happened. We're going to have to do what we're going to do. So they wind up finding out, or they wind up talking about it, and they're going to go to Macedora, the city of magic. First, they got to get a map, though. So they wind up going in and exchanging in some of the cards that they have that they don't really need, and get enough money to go and buy a map. And they wind up buying this map that, as you go, and almost exactly like in a video game, a lot of times maps, as you walk around and open up different areas, the map becomes clearer, and it marks locations on there that you've seen or visited. So I thought that was kind of a cool little touch, being a big gamer myself, and I kind of like a lot of little nods to various RPG open world type games in here, so very neat stuff. We wind up, so then they're left on their way to Macedora. They find out it's about 80 kilometers north. Biscuit wants to go and tag along with the little girl, and she's kind of like hopping around, and they're like, no, we don't want you to come with us. And she gets all pissed off and talks about, she does this like inner monologue thing where she's like, I'm going to destroy them. I was just going to tease them, but now I'm going to torment them and destroy them. And anyway, and then she comes back to reality, and she's like, oh yeah, come on, I won't be a bother, I'll just follow you along. So as we leave them, we wind up seeing Pooh Hat and the gang that in the last episode invited Gon and Killua to join up with their little group that they're going to try to clear the game, and they've got a strategy for it and everything else, and kind of a strength in numbers type of deal. So they go to their secret base, which is this cave, and we wind up finding out more about the game. The rarest card in the game, this something of Archangel, Eye of Archangel, maybe it was called, I don't know, something of Archangel, they want to get, and you can only get that by trading in your 40 spell cards if you have one of each spell card, which they have. But if they go and they trade those in and get this rare card, they don't have anything to protect it. So the new people are tasked with memorizing all 40 of the spell cards and then being able to go out and actually find another prison card, because a prison card will actually go and take and it will lock a particular page of your book and the cards that are within it until those cards are removed from the slot. Nobody can steal them, nobody can take them, nothing can happen to them. What I find hard to believe is that all these ding-dongs have been going and gathering cards for God knows how many weeks or months and recruiting people for their club, but they only have one of each spell card. I understand spell cards are very useful in the game, obviously, but really, you guys didn't come across any doubles or or triples of anything. It's fine, but we wind up also finding out too that there's this other card, and I think it's called Eye of God, where you can use this card and it will tell you about another card. It will tell you how many times it can obviously be transformed. It'll tell you how many are actually in use, and that's how they know that this Archangel card is so rare and that nobody even possesses it. So, and I don't know exactly where you go to trade in your 40 spell cards to get one of these, but these are all some of the ground rules that are being laid for the game. And it's cool. I mean, I really do. I like it. It's very neat because it reminds you of being in like this virtual world, kind of a mashup between like an open world RPG and like an RTS turn-based game that's also kind of rooted in some of that card playing stuff like a Yu-Gi-Oh or a World of Warcraft, that sort of thing. Not World of Warcraft, Magic. That's what I was thinking of. World of Warcraft's more like the MMORPG open world deal. Anyways, I like it because it's a mashup between a few different things, and then obviously too it has our characters within it. So that's the check-in with them to see what they're up to and what's going on. We then go and we see Shalnark and Kortopi and Shizuku. Phaetan and Finks are off somewhere else, and we'll get to them in a second. But those three, because Shalnark, of course, came out of the game to ask Kortopi and how do you pronounce it? Kortopi and Shizuku if they wanted to come in the game. He sits down and he tells him that he's figured out three things. First of all, he figured out how to decipher NPCs from them, because they basically, when you ask them a question, a certain type of question, they just answer the same type of generic answer. It's almost like when you go and you call for help with your cable, your cell phone, or whatever, and it's somebody just reading off the screen of a teleprompter. You could tell them that you're on fire and that your asshole is burning, and they'll just be like, "Okay, well, thank you very much for calling, sir. We are going to fix you right up over here. Let us schedule an appointment to..." And you're like, what the dude, I just told you I'm on fire, bro. Anyways, but so that's kind of what they're getting at with that. Obviously, the NPCs in there. Also, Kortopi and his copying power, it doesn't work in the game. It does work, but as soon as you go to use the card to actually put it into your book, it just turned into a pebble or something like that. So basically, that his power does not work on the actual cards. So they can't go and just get good cards and then copy them and trade them, sell them, or whatever other type of shady ass bullshit that the Phantom Troupe guys want to do, because we all know they're not there to get ice cream and have a good time, and have a picnic. So they're there to just to steal and get what they can in the shortest, quickest possible way, and in the most just kind of lowly possible type of way too. They're not there to play the game like it's supposed to be played. So they're the players that are ruining the game, if you know what I mean. So, anyways, and then we find out that the third thing is that Shizuku's vacuum works in there, but only on certain things, not on the cards. So what Shalnark says is that he believes that that this isn't a virtual world at all. It's actually a place in the real world. What happens is when you go into the game by using your Hatsu, activating your Nen and obviously your Hatsu, your body doesn't just stay there. It's not separating your soul from your body, which would happen if it pushed you into a virtual world. Your body is actually gone. So his thought process here, and this makes sense, is that they're actually being transported just to another area of the world, maybe a secluded island or whatever, and because you can actually use some of your Nen abilities, but then obviously there's different types of restrictions and things like that with the cards and what can be used on them and everything else. So the whole point to this is that he believes that for clearing the game, you get to pick any three cards to take out into the real world with you. So that's another thing that lends the credibility to it being the real world already, because you can use these things and all you're doing is really just transporting back to where you're from. Anyways, this is basically his way of saying, hey, we can lie, cheat, and steal, because there's got to be another way to go and steal and take items out of the game without clearing the game if we're actually in the real world. So we know that they're up to some mischief. We check in briefly with Phaetan and Finks, and they've just killed somebody, taken their cards, and then killed the person. They decide that they're in a field, they're going to split up, they're going to meet in Macedora in a week, and basically see how many cards they can collect and see how many people they can kill. So again, low life, shady type of shit going on from the troupe. You would expect nothing better, certainly nothing worse or nothing different, but that's what they're going to do. The rest of the episode winds up taking place with Gon and Killua, and they wind up getting stopped by what they think are some NPCs in the forest, and there's a pretty much a nonsensical thing where they wind up going and getting suckered out of their money, as well as some of their clothes. And then afterwards, they're going and they're running around, minus, basically just in their shorts and their t-shirts now, because they've given away their outer clothing. And they're basically pissed off that they just got taken, you know what I mean, by some people in the game. They're not having a great time. The little girl is actually following along with them, right? And she's going and she's following along, and staying behind them. And they wind up we get the last half of the episode is a lot of action sequences. They wind up taking down these giant cyclops, by kicking or punching them in the eye. Great depiction of action. Nice to see finally something happening, because nothing's really happened much in that department in several episodes. And they're collecting cards from this one huge lizard appears. They're dodging it and getting out of the way. There's this really fast thing that appears that they can't quite track because it's too fast, but things that are strong for them they're okay with. At the end of the day, what winds up happening is the little girl, she steps in and basically tells them, no, because there's a suit of armor appears with a sword, and she's like, no, use Gaio. They use Gaio and can see that it's being controlled by this little thing around the corner that reminds me of from Final Fantasy, the little Moogles. I think that's what they're called, Moogles. And they wind up going around the corner and finding out that it was just this little thing that was controlling it, by using, of course, Gaio to see that kind of thread of essence, aura, energy that's coming out. So anyway, she goes and explains to them, she's a whole bunch of different stuff about Nen and about Ren, and when you should use this and when you should use that, and when you're unsure about something, just use Gaio. And they're like, what's your deal, right? Anyway, we wind up finding out that she's an old school pro hunter, and even though she looks like she's about 12 to 14, she's at least 40, because she talks about, and obviously a lot older than that, because she talks about how she's been doing this for 40 years, or she learned some technique 40 years ago, right? And then it's funny because Gon's like, 40 years? And, of course, he's not good with math anyway, so he's still probably trying to add it up with fingers and toes, And then Killua's just like, oh my god, you're an old hag. And she's already pissed at Killua because some of the shit that he said to her before. So she just pops Killua's ass up into the stratosphere, and that's how the episode ends off, But anyway, and then the narrator tells us that she is a pro hunter and has been for a while. So hopefully we're going to get a little more insight and background into her and what's going on, with her and her background in the next episode. All in all, though, very cool. There was a lot of content because it taught us a lot about the actual game and the rules for the game, And you can still see Gon's just sort of childlike innocence that he wants to just have fun in this game, because when given a choice between buying a more expensive map that shows all the locations and where they are, and buying a map that fills in as you go, he's like, let's take this one. Not because it's cheaper, not because it's more affordable, because it's going to be fun to explore the game while we're doing it. So it's that mentality of when you go into, anybody who plays video games, when you get a new game and you're excited about it, or it's a game you heard was good, or it's a game you heard nothing about, but you're just excited because the publisher or developer or the back of the box look cool, right? And you pop it in and you start playing, and as you're learning everything, this is kind of like that episode. This is like that first hour prologue training, teaching you how to move, how the turn-based system works, how the magic works, how the upgrades the skill points. And I really like it. I think it's very cool. My episode question for you, though, brothers and sisters, is what are your thoughts on, obviously, 5 of the members of the Phantom Troupe being within the Greed Island game, and obviously the havoc and commotion that they may cause by being in there? But what are your thoughts on of course, them being in there, and how that's going to play a role into what winds up happening in the game? Let me know what your answer to that question is in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We'll look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation.
I like big boobs and I can't not lie. Pecanota's got them rockin' thighs. Remember to subscribe to my other channels and follow me on the Twitter, the Facebook, and the Instagram too.